Ladies and gentlemen, last week was defined by a drop on Bitcoin from 110,000 all the way down to 98,000. And this week so far has been defined by Bitcoin bouncing back up. Now, it's not out of the woods yet. It has not done what it needs to do to be back in a secure position. And I'll tell you exactly what it needs to do to get back in that secure position today. But there is a potential short-term bullish structure forming, albeit within conflicting signs on the 4-hourly chart and on the longer term charts, still at major resistance, like the weekly chart, for example, and like the USDT dominance chart. So it's a bit of a complicated mess here in the short term, but I'm going to dissect it today. I'm going to give you exactly what needs to happen for it to stop being an absolute mess. Now, a lot of you guys, and most of you guys actually, think that Bitcoin's month in July will be categorized, or characterized, I should say, by a rally. 56% of you are kind of thinking we're going to go upwards in July. 28% think there's going to be more consolidation, and only 16% think we're going to go downwards in July. So most of you are leaning bullish, and a pretty significant portion of you are leaning neutral at this point. And with about 120 days left in the cycle, it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. Not much time remaining, but certainly enough time for one more correction if we needed to see it. Quickly, we'll mention here, if you want a question answered about the market, I'm going to be making a Q&A video tomorrow. So go ahead to my community section here, my posts section on my YouTube channel, and drop any question you have about the market here, and I'll answer it in tomorrow's video. Q&A videos are my favorite videos. It gives me an opportunity to see what you guys are looking at, and you guys often show me things that I'm not even looking at, so I get to see things as well, which influences my future videos, and I get to respond to some popular questions that you guys have, usually in the comments section in video format, and give you my full thoughts on it. It's usually the most informative type of video I make, actually, so go ahead and leave your question there if you're interested. I'm going to skip the Bitunix ad here and just leave it for the end of the video because this is going to be a very short one, so I don't feel the need to chuck it in the introduction. I only have a few things to say today. Of course, all of the macro structures are unchanged at this point. There's been no defining bull market ending move or no defining bull market continuation move at this point. Nothing that's happened in the last week has had any real effect on the macro price structures. The long term is still pretty much intact. In my view, in order for the long term to change in any capacity, we'd need to be breaking either one of these two yellow lines stemming backwards from 2017 and hence being 8 years old, and then the other one stemming backwards from 2021 and hence being 4 years old, both of which are cyclically relevant, stemming from prior all-time highs. Very important lines here, which are acting as the range-bound support and resistance. Until one of these lines breaks, literally nothing's changed at all, really, on the short term. On the medium term or long term, I mean. Short term, okay, it's a different story. Now, those yellow lines are only one segment of what needs to happen for a macro structure to be broken, or for a macro move to, reignite. Another thing is the USDT dominance chart. It's reverse correlated to Bitcoin. It marked Bitcoin's top in 2021 on both occasions, and that exact level that marked Bitcoin's top in 2021 on both occasions, being reverse correlated to Bitcoin, is being tested right now for support. We need to break down below that level in order for Bitcoin to have the breathing room to move upwards once more. So quite a few macro structures clearly not broken yet, clearly need to be broken in order for the market to actually have breathing room to move upwards. And that's only going to really occur if we break above something like 115,000. So really are in the middle of the range here. Not much going on from a macro perspective. Now, from a short-term perspective, it's a slightly different story. There is some price action potentially developing. It's hard to validate at this point because there's a few fake outs here and there, but we could be in the midst of forming a bullish descending channel formation. Okay, that's a possibility, and that's a possibility that requires further confirmation. But if that is the case, awesome. That's a bullish structure, and we should probably move upwards from there. For that reason, in order for, and for the reason being, I don't see it as particularly valid yet. I want to see more validity come through retests. If we break this channel to the upside, which would only require Bitcoin moving upwards another $1,500 and we see a volume surge when that occurs, that's epic. That means Bitcoin's going to go right to all-time highs once more, and it's going to go right up and retest the top of the macro range. That could happen within a week. Okay, so we're really not far from making progress. All that needs to happen is one little move, one little budge. The only issue is within this range, within this channel, it doesn't look like there's much resistance right now. In fact, it looks like we're flipping support, but there actually is, and it's hidden resistance. It's coming from the market cipher B, which has just printed a bearish cross. Okay, that's not a good sign. It does indicate we could potentially move down again, and we will, be able to know whether that's happening if Bitcoin moves below 106.5. So we don't have to wait very long, really, to find out what's going to happen in a short term. We either have to break above 109 with a volume surge, or break below 106.5. And we'll get very clearly an idea of what's going to happen in a short-term move. It's hard to validate right now in this weird little position we're in. We're occupying kind of a neutral area, but we won't have to wait very long for the next short-term move to be validated. And another thing that's a bit concerning about Bitcoin right now is that on the weekly chart RSI, the 62 level on the weekly chart RSI, which is a very, very important macro support and resistance region. I'm not going to waste your time with going back and showing you every single retest right now, because I've done it about a dozen times before. What I will show you is this, though. In the last year or so, we've had so many important interactions with this 62 level on the weekly chart RSI, which is the origin of the RSI price action. Every time we break above it, we move upwards in the price chart. Every time we retest it, we bounce in the price chart or reject on the price chart. We get above it, we get below it. We have these macro moves. And unfortunately, right now, we are testing it for resistance after breaking down below it, which is further validating the point I made before. Bitcoin right now, although it may look like on a surface level it's in a strong short-term position, it's not actually. We haven't really done what we needed to do, even to make the short-term look good, let alone the macro. So Bitcoin right now I actually consider to be at resistance, strong resistance, even on the short term. And I consider that same thing to be true for the altcoin market. We look at Ethereum. Ethereum, for example, breaking below a ascending channel formation, finding support on the bull market support band, finding support on the macro range there in green at 2,200, but coming back upwards and seeing a resistance support flip and being unable to break above that level in the meantime. So look, short term, we're at resistance, and the total cryptocurrency market cap, just like Bitcoin, just like Ethereum, it's got a strong foundational support down here where it just retested its 2021 all-time high. But just like Bitcoin, it's at the same position. It's within this potential descending channel formation, with the broader market sitting at resistance through the USDT dominance chart, through the weekly chart, RSI. So we're not really in the clear. So again, we have 120 days left in the cycle. And in my view, it really could go either way at this point. I don't see any reason from a cyclical perspective, which is the only thing I really have any confidence in, for Bitcoin to need to go upwards right now, right? We could certainly correct downwards even further to 96,000, to 93,000. These things are certainly possible, and that would leave enough time for one more swoop to the upside for that final leg of the bull market. It's not like Bitcoin is actually in a rush here cyclically. The only reason people think that is because they're used to Bitcoin doing a lot more than it's done this cycle in bull markets. They're used to Bitcoin just non-stop moving like in 2017, non-stop moving besides one big break in 2021, and they're not used to Bitcoin taking these long drawn-out consolidations that last way longer than people think. The fact of the matter is that is the defining quality of this cycle. This cycle has been defined and characterized by long sweeping consolidations, and so to assume that we won't see another one just because we've only got 4 months left in the cycle, I think you're underestimating Bitcoin's capacity to be boring this cycle. So I don't really have a concrete opinion on the market for short and medium term. What I do know is that in the long term, and in the next 4 months, I see it as highly likely that Bitcoin will reach a new all-time high. I see it as highly likely that Bitcoin will get to at least 130,000, and that level is not just arbitrary. I've spoken about the $130,000 level in multiple videos. In fact, if you want to see a video in which I've discussed 130,000, all you need to do is go backwards to a video right here from 9 days ago, and I give you my reasoning for thinking that level is important. So I do think that Bitcoin will reach 130K at least in this cycle, but I just don't think it's in any particular rush or urgency to get there, which I think is proven by the characterization of long sweeping consolidations Bitcoin has had so far in this cycle. So no real change in the short term, although change in the short term will be coming quite shortly. All we need to do is break really 109 with a volume surge, and volume surge is critical in that for validation, or break 106. For the long term, again, we're still looking at these major levels like 115 and 93. So guys, I'll end the video there. Again, quickly go ahead and drop your question in the Q&A so I have more topics to discuss in tomorrow's video. But also, a lot of people ask me what exchange I use as a trader. I use the Bitunix Exchange, and I don't have a contract with them. I haven't signed anything with them. I don't work for them. I advertise them on my own accord. With my referral link down below, you can get a 15% trading fee discount permanently attached to your account, as well as up to 8,000 USDT in rewards just by signing up with my link down below. Why would you sign up? Well, it's global, it's non-KYC, it's never been hacked before, it's got all of the functions and pairs that you would expect for a major exchange. For that reason, I use it. And I implore you to consider using it as well. Sign up with my link to help out the channel, help out yourself. Cheers.